Good evening, viewers. I hope you have enjoyed your weekend. Today we are honored. Our honorable guest is a very hard-working individual. He started his career working in a factory. Then he worked as a youth worker. He worked with media and a lot of things. Today we'll discuss his personality and his achievement. And our guest is Matloub Husayn Ali Khan. Welcome in our show.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Nazir Saab.
Matloub, please share with our viewers about your early days and your education.
Yes, my story started, I came to this country in 1967. I landed in London. I went on the train to Sheffield with my father. I remember the early memories, getting off the Victoria train station, which doesn't exist no more, at the Wicker Arches. And it was an amazing experience coming to the UK from Kashmir, from Pakistan. And ever since then, I went to school in the UK in Huntsman's Gardens. Then I went to Burngreve at the Burngreve Boys High School. Now it's a different name there now. And I stayed in Attercliffe at the early years, and we moved to Burngreve in 1969-70. And I've since lived in Burngreve all my life. Just moved to Firth Park recently, only down the road, as you know. And over the years, when I started getting left school, I started working in engineering as a engineer, as a machinist and a mechanical engineer. After which, during that time, I got involved in voluntary work within the youth and community side, within the Muslim community, the Asian community in Coleridge Road, Attercliffe Youth Centre. And I stayed working there voluntary capacity with my colleagues, very well-known figure, Muhammad Yunus. I'm sure people have heard of him. And eventually I got paid for that work as well as working in the factory. And then while I was working in the factory, I started doing my degree part-time as a social studies course. While the machine was running, I was doing my essays in the factory. And mashallah, even during my working days at the factory, I was attending college, in Stanton College, which is now Sheffield College. And after that, I eventually in 1979, 80s, in the 80s was the heydays for a lot of people, because the 80s, I think that's what the period is coming back here now, because the 80s, as you know, recent developments in politics in the UK, there is people saying why the 80s are coming back, because certain people have been elected, especially in terms of politics are changing.
So when we talk about Sheffield, because you have seen different phases, working with the steel industry, then working as a youth worker, how you say that, which was the best part of work you have done during your lifetime?
I think the best part of my work, for people who remember me, is work, and I've got a book here, and I know you might think I'm plugging it, but this is a book called The Black Star, Britain's Asian Youth Movements, or British Youth Movements, yeah. I was involved in, as I said, during working in engineering, I was active in the trade union movement, especially rights of black workers. And I came across many people who were being discriminated against, especially in the Pakistani Muslim community, Kashmiri community, taxi drivers, restaurant workers, and there were even problems in the mosques amongst themselves, but mainly around taxi drivers and restaurant workers, which is still going on now today. We still hear on the local radio that there is attacks on taxi drivers, maybe not on restaurants, but they do happen. And that's when I got involved, and the Asian youth movements. And I went on a trip by road, overland trip, once in a lifetime journey, which has been a book's been written about that by my colleague Muhammad Yunus as well. So this book mentions Sheffield in very, very good terms, because it mentions Sheffield in 9 pages of what Sheffield input, and because of Sheffield's archive, which personally I was part of that, and that archive was the basis of this book, which is a historical book on the Asian youth movements in the UK. So that was one of the things. The other things I've been involved in media, especially around during my work in the Sheffield City Council as a youth worker. A lot of people know me as a youth worker because we went on an overland trip, but also we went by road to Pakistan, Kashmir, and also I got involved in a community radio project, which was the first ever community radio license for the Asian community in Sheffield in 1992.
We'll talk about later. I'll stop here. So your involvement in the media, how you decided to join the media, because youth work is a different work, then a steel work, and then all of a sudden media.
Yeah,
so how you joined the media?
The media was interesting because in my active days in the Asian youth movement, I got involved in the Sheffield local BBC radio station. I was on BBC Radio Sheffield, being interviewed many times. I never got actually involved in presenting any shows on the radio because BBC's policies, you know, it's interesting that they don't want people with certain views, but I didn't get involved in the BBC in terms of the volunteer, but I was interviewed all the time on that, and I got interested in the media.
But every institution have the policy, they have to follow that.
Yeah, but I think it was because at the end of the day, it depends what the politics are. And I mean, the BBC do always interview my view. It's not a problem, but I'm saying maybe I didn't want to get involved, but also it was a voluntary arrangement, and a lot of other colleagues are still involved, and I still advise them and support them, and they support me, vice versa. But at the same time, it was 1990. I think, I don't know if you understand what happened in the Rushdie affair, what happened to Salman Rushdie, the death sentence that was passed on him in 1988, 89. There was a big march in Sheffield, Rushdie affair. There was about 4,000 people, probably more than that. We were really angry. And because of that, I was asked to go participate in a very, very interesting program called the Satanic Verses Facing the Book, part of the Everyman series on the BBC. They took people away to a place in Cumbria, and there was about 8 people, I think 3 or 4 Muslims, including myself, from different perspectives of Islam. And we had a big debate, and it came on national TV, which watched by millions of people. Said Matloub's become an overnight celebrity. I wasn't really, but I had to be interviewed to go onto that program, and 200 people were shortlisted, and I luckily was on that TV program. And by the way, they did pay people to do that, and it was a really interesting. After that, 2 or 3 months later.
So it was an edited program, it was live program, or it was?
It was filmed and then edited, obviously, but obviously it was put on national TV. And after that, in 1992, but I think because I became involved, I was still working in the youth service, Sheffield City Council. I'd done the overland trip in 85, and I came back on. People approached me, say, from the Asian community, the Muslim community. They said, well, we'd like to do a radio station. And in fact, I was in the building of this Sheffield Live Paternoster Row sat. This is an actual fact, talking to one of the pioneers of this radio station, Steve Buckley, in Paternoster Row in the cafe downstairs, which is next door to this building. And he came, this was November, December 1991. He's saying, my colleague was called Abid, one of my people who were involved in the radio station. We were saying, no, we're going to do a radio station, RSL. And it was just an idea. And Steve said, you know, there's a big problem because they were called the community. This is called the association they were involved in was called Community Radio Association. Now it's Community Media Association, and it was Community Radio Association at that time.
So Matloub, when we talk about the media, so a lot of stations are coming. So what actually media can do for the liberties and for the people's right?
Yeah. I just want to finish that point, and then I'll come on to the media. At the beginning of that, the radio station which got me interested, anyway, to fast forward quickly, because
we have 19 minutes.
Yeah, obviously,
we have to finish a lot of things.
I'm going to fast forward quickly the film now. What I'm trying to say to you that after the little conversation with Steve, he'll remember it himself and he'll mention it. And I was reminding him at this award ceremony which happened in one of the local radio stations, which you're involved in and I am involved in. And we were there, and he said he remembered that quite well. But we were on air. We got the radio station going. It was in a local, guess which place it was? It was Attercliffe Youth Centre, which is called Club 786, which is 786 is an Islamic term for Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And it was there, Coleridge Road Centre, Attercliffe Youth Club. We had the radio station there in June, and the year it was 1413 of the Islamic calendar, It's a Muharram, it's a second day in fact, and it was called 1413 AM frequency, and it was the 1413, the year of Islamic year, and it just coincided. It was on medium wave. The only difference is most radio stations we're involved in are FM, and it was successful. I learned a lot of things after that. I got interested in interviewing people like Indian film stars, singers, and that's where my media started. So after 1992, I got involved in a few other projects, RSLs up and down in Burngreave in 2000, and then 2000 I came across the Radio Ramadan. Shabir Mughal, who's at Iman FM now, and then Burngreave got a license, a few RSLs, and I've not looked back since. So I'm here, as you know, yourself, you're in the media field, and I've been interviewed on Sheffield Live Radio as well, previous to that, before, when it was on the internet. So that's the sort of the full story.
So where you see media world in Sheffield in next 10 years?
I think the media world is going to reflect what's happening in America. You're going to get cities next door to each other, very close. There's going to be a station around every 2 miles. You know, that's what TV is going to do. And I think this is good. I think it's great. I think it's brilliant that people can have radio stations, TV stations, and at your fingertips, and people can listen to their views and their, come up.
How media can play a vital role in educating communities and also minimizing the suffering of the people who are suffering in different way?
Well, I think media is very, very important these days because it gets to the heart of the matter faster, and looking at people and understanding than it did by the sort of word and mouth, and it's much more sort of it's informal. It's on your sort of virtually on your it's in your living room basically, and that's the beauty about it.
And please share your experience working with the charity and your present role with the.
Well, I have had a lot of jobs leading up to the working for the charities. To be honest, I've done loads of other things. I've done I worked for other charities as well. But because I've been involved in many causes in the past during my days in Nation Youth Movement, I've helped a lot of causes. To be honest, getting paid is a bonus. I mean, I put a lot more effort. A lot of people put a lot more effort in who get work for charities. Obviously, you do represent them, and but I try to help my other causes.
So, what is the name of the charity you're working with?
Well, the charity is Al Mustafa Trust International, ATI. It's an international charity registered in the UK in 1986, and they were, as far as I understand it, and from what I know and what I've talked to, is in the Kashmir earthquake, Pakistan earthquake in 2005, which they did a 10-year anniversary, which just recently happened, and it's been reliving some of the sort of things that happened, and also how things have moved on, or things are still the same in terms of the people who were affected by it. And they were crucial, and they registered in 1986, Al Mustafa Trust International. So yeah, Al Mustafa Trust International is a very, very reputable charity, which a lot of people in Sheffield and across the UK, go to make their donations to us. And
any projects you're doing near Christmas period? Because last year or in a few years back, you did some experience with the homeless people.
Regularly, we do projects locally as well. That's another thing. We supported a few projects of local young people in housing projects. We've supported even archer projects indirectly, and we've supported through different cricket clubs. So we have an input in local projects as well as supporting other causes, So yeah, definitely we are doing ongoing work, which is supporting projects, the international projects mainly. We do work around orphans, especially orphans, the ones in when the earthquake happened. They're the ones still need that help.
Matloub, you have also a very keen interest in the regeneration and the development of the deprived areas. So what is your message for the Sheffield City Council, that how they can help the deprived areas and the areas which is not developed as compared to other areas?
Well, Sheffield's regeneration was started, I'll be honest, there was attempts, and I think people read, I've done a lot of writings as a freelance journalist, that people know that I'm a radio presenter, freelance journalist, youth worker, involved in charitable causes. But I think the Sheffield City Council, when they'd set up the Sheffield Development Corporation, I'm getting confused with some Sheffield Defence Campaign, that's a different one in this book. After that, they did some regeneration projects. Meadow Hall came to being. There was a lot. Meadow Hall still doing a long way to go, but there's loads of things that have happened. And Sheffield, in Burngrave, we had the 56 million pounds Burngrave New Deal, which we've seen some benefits, but local regeneration, and you had the Sheffield Development Corporation before that. Then you had all these things that are happening.
50 million pounds is a lot of money. 56 million pounds. You can rebuild a new city with this money.
Yeah, and I think that money, there's been a big controversy. A lot of people from different areas have criticised it, but I think personally it has done something. I've been one of the people who've been criticised that it didn't go far enough, and it wasn't enough money, and a lot of it was ill thought through, and a lot of the problems that happened, to be honest, I'll be honest, a lot of people who were benefited were ex-council employees who lost jobs, and I said to the council themselves that they were just like, that money was just paying for the workers what council should be employing.
But in these type of projects,
so it's helping the council out.
That a big tank is full of water, but the drops are coming down at the grassroots.
Yeah, it's trickling down, and it's not even trickling, it stops.
So what is your message, because we are coming towards the end of our show, what is your message for our viewers today?
I think the message for the viewers out there is that the situation, the conditions at the moment are changing, and people are, especially the less of the disadvantaged people, who've got to fight for their rights as they've done in the previous years, and they've got to demand those rights and demand that people, and especially some of the refugees, and there's a crisis that is going on. And my message is that the present government and the present political climate, things are going to get very, very difficult, but we can go through them. And most of the people who stand up for people who are being oppressed and who have been victimized, to give them support rather than stereotype and rather than blame them.
Matloub, thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you to you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Viewers, I hope you have today's episode. In coming days, we will be here for you with more guests, with more profile. And if you want to join me, and if you join me as a guest, please send your CV. Keep watching Sheffield Live. Thank you.